Right now, as we speak, Benjamin Netanyahu is in the air heading to Washington, D.C., getting ready to meet President Trump tomorrow for a meeting that will probably decide whether or not there's going to be war with Iran. Now, there are no shortage of big supporters for President Trump that have been just going overboard, doing everything they can to try and put pressure on President Trump to take action to the benefit of Benjamin Netanyahu. Couldn't be any more clear. People can make a claim that, well, we like Israel, we want to help Israel. That can be argued. But what you can't argue is that there is any need whatsoever for the United States of America to go to war with Iran. It violates the U.S. Constitution because we have not been attacked and because the Congress has not declared war on Iran. Therefore, according to the Constitution, Articles 1 and Articles 2 and the 1973 War Powers Act, the Commander-in-Chief cannot unilaterally take the nation to war, and that is exactly what is being discussed right now. That's what's being planned for. That's what we have all this force arrayed in the Middle East for. So we are walking into, eyes wide open, everybody, the media, the members of the House of Representatives, members of the Senate, everybody in public. Everybody is walking into this knowing for sure that this is a direct violation of our Constitution, and yet nobody, not Republicans, not Democrats, not senators, not representatives, nobody is doing anything at all to even sound the alarms, to even try and constrain the commander-in-chief. Now, the reason is pretty simple. We've done it so many times it has become normal, and we are now following normal instead of the law, instead of a constitution. And so many folks in both parties, but primarily on the right, make so many comments about how they, swear an allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. They talk about they blast the other party for not following the Constitution. They often will hold it up in the air and say how we want to follow it. And yet, when it matters the most, they're ready to walk away and ignore it completely because they're guys in the White House. And if their guy wants to go do something, that's fine. But see, it's not even that. It's even worse than that because the Democrats, who's definitely not their guy, are also silent. They should be standing up and just pounding on their desks, making speeches, putting forth legislation, doing whatever they can, going on their social media networks, going on the television networks, and doing everything. He said, this is a direct violation of the war. I'm doing it here. Why am I the only one? Why am I the only one that I see, even among other people who think the way I do? Why is no one just pounding their hand on the desk and saying, this is against the law? This is against our very form of government. And yet, here we go. We're standing on the precipice. And quite to the contrary, instead of anyone standing up who has any standing and who has any credibility and any power, instead of them stand up and say that, they're doing the exact opposite of encouraging the man, Donald Trump, to continue to go further down the road and to ignore the Constitution, ignore the U.S. law, and ignore international law, any kind of constraints whatsoever. Go and do it. And I'm going to show you 3 exhibits here that show you why this is such a dangerous time. And I fear that there will come a day when this video will be played on the backside of these decisions. If President Trump gives in to this coercion and this pressure, both from Israel and from his own supporters in our country, that people will look back and they will beg for a chance to come back at this moment here, when this video is being made, and say, if only we had put pressure on him to stop, it could have avoided a catastrophe. It could have avoided disaster. I fear that's what's going to happen. But the stage is being set for that. Let's take a look. First of all, I'm going to go back a couple of weeks ago to Lindsey Graham, who wants to tell everybody that this is a defining moment for President Trump.
Says they are negotiating, they're having conversation.
Right.
The Ayatollah says if you strike here, it's going to spark a regional war.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a defining moment in his presidency. Ronald Reagan went to the Berlin Wall and he said, tear down this wall. He didn't say, could you make it lower? When asked about what the protesters should do, President Trump said, keep protesting, help is on the way. If this regime is still standing, the day after, if we pull the plug, will be 100 years of chaos. I have every confidence that President Trump will do what he promised to the people. Help is on the way, keep protesting. If this regime falls, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, they all go. It'd be the biggest change since the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Biggest fall since the Berlin Wall. And of course, you know, that mentality has been tried before. 2003, Iraq War, so many other times, the Obama's foray into Libya. Everybody always talks about how this is going to change things for the better. President Bush said it. President Obama said it. Now here you have advocates for President Trump saying the same thing. This is going to be great. This is a layup, he said in another context. That's what he's talking about for Lindsey Graham. That's the way it's going to work. So he is saying, President Trump, this is your defining moment. Well, he may be right, just not the way he's thinking. It could well define President Trump. This could be the most catastrophic decision that he makes, and he's made a few already, but none potentially more consequential than this. Because consider this, almost no matter how this works out, if President Trump gives into this pressure and listens to the likes of Lindsey Graham, it is almost certain, it is very likely that American service members who are alive right now at their bases at many places around the Middle East, who are not going to be alive when this is all over, who are going to whose lives will be sacrificed for nothing. There is no reason we should take this conflict, that we should not be having a war unless the American people are behind it, and they should not support it unless our security is being threatened actively by somebody else, and that we either take action or we're going to be attacked. That's why we have what used to be called the Department of Defense, to defend our country, defend our borders, defend our nation, not as an offensive tool to be used at the pleasure of the man who happens to be sitting in the White House. That's not what it was designed for. And that's not what anybody signed up in uniform for, is to potentially sacrifice their lives for the lust of one man. For someone to take our country into war, not defending our country, not to the betterment of our people, not to protect our way of life, none of those things. This is so that somebody gets their way, primarily Benjamin Netanyahu, because that's who wants this more than anybody, and then all of these supporters like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham's not the only one. Exhibit number 2 is Brother Jack Keane.
The military option, the one that the president is in the planning and preparation stage of, it is a preferred option here, because it sets the conditions for regime collapse. And it would likely be a combined operation with Israel and the United States. And what we're seeing now, the pacing for this operation is being driven by being able to move resources into the region to do two things. One, to help us defend, as well as the Israelis, against Iranians' retaliation attack, but also to make certain that this operation would likely not be a limited operation in terms of a one-night operation or 2 nights. Mm-hmm. This would be a comprehensive campaign combined with the stated purpose to set the conditions for a regime collapse.
So you see, again, we're not being attacked. We're not being threatened. This is just, we need to go after them. We can't let them stay in power here any longer, just because he wants to. And he even acknowledges this is going to be a campaign. It's not going to be a one-off. But he is oblivious to the fact. And I just cannot understand how any way, shape, or form somebody who was a 4-star general could be so either casual and laissez-faire about Americans dying because these guys are going to attack Americans in the region, or oblivious to the fact that they have this capability. I don't know which it is, because he's only talking about how long it'll take us to accomplish the objective. And he sets an objective that is huge and very difficult to accomplish. Regime change. He wants to set the conditions, he says, for regime change. Even he says this is not something that's going to be short. It's going to take some time. So he's envisioning something that probably would take months. I don't think he's even talking about days. I don't think he believes that a few missiles are going to knock these guys out. Because listen, this is common sense, man. You don't even have to have a PhD in military affairs. If you've had this much time, number one, the 12-day war that was last year. So Iran had every opportunity to see how the United States attacks, to see how Israel attacks, how they can attack against them, how their defenses work, how they can defeat them. And they definitely learned as they went along, because the percentage of missiles that got through kept increasing. So they learned then. You can be sure they've learned everything else since that time. And they have gone and poured over the data. They've saw it. Okay, how did they do this? What can we do to mitigate against it? And you know, it's just common sense. that they're going to have prepared bunker positions. They're going to have spread their stuff out, that they're mentally prepared, that they're physically prepared. They know the power that's coming against them. They know what they're up against, and they have plans for it. They have plans to attack. They have plans to defend. They have almost certainly understand that they're going to suffer a lot of casualties and that they're going to suffer a lot of destruction and damage. They know that they can intercept some. They know they can't intercept it all. So they're prepared. They got to have this stuff spread out all over their country. So they are girded and ready to go. That is the worst possible time to attack someone, when they're ready. Now, in the 12-day war, Israel had some pretty incredible, really, tactical capabilities where they had some people infiltrated in, and they attacked some of their radar sites. They had some drones that were flying on the inside that messed up a lot of stuff. Took like 10, 12 hours for Iran to recover from that. That's gone. That's a one-off deal. You don't get a second shot at that. So whatever you had then, and even then, that just delayed Iran for a while. But then once they got their bearings back, you see they started having a lot of success. This time, there will be no surprises. Everybody knows what's coming. And militarily, I cannot reinforce this enough. The worst time to attack somebody is when they are fully ready, psychologically, physically, militarily, every way you can imagine. They are prepared for this. It will not be easy. And if you just think that because we had a successful one-off in Venezuela where we had inside help and all we were doing was going to snatch and grab one dude and get out, if you think that that has any indication of what could come here, you are vastly overestimating what we can do and vastly underestimating how difficult this task is. And that seems to be what we're doing. But those are exhibits 1 and 2. Here's this last one, is another advocate for the administration that is doing everything he can to push President Trump into war. And he's taken a new tactic here. He's going to attack the people from in the United States like me and others like me who are promoting these same kinds of things, to say that don't listen to them because they're just a bunch of ne'er-do-wells. Now, what you're going to see here is Ben Shapiro, and this is going to start off with the Iranian foreign minister Araghchi talking about how he's not going to have negotiations with the United States commander of CENTCOM, and then he'll pick it up from there.
The presence of a military commander in negotiations, and we think that there is no connection between CENTCOM commander and the nuclear talks.
Now, again, good luck to them. I mean, if they think that that is going to work out well for them, I would suggest they probably have another thing coming. I think that probably the Iranian stall here is an attempt to basically drive the American isolationist wing into the idea that America must do nothing, and that if America commits to any serious military action against Iran, that suddenly this will entail hundreds of thousands of American troops on the ground. Again, President Trump is not going to do that. My suspicion is that the reason the president is taking time is to ensure that American forces have all of the anti-missile equipment that they need over there in case Iran decides to retaliate against, for example, American air bases in places like Iraq, in Jordan, in Saudi, in Kuwait, in UAE, in Qatar, and all the rest. There's a lot of young people trying to navigate.
Okay, don't want to give his commercial there. So that's what you can see here. He's like wanting to, first of all, he's going to demonize everybody. The isolationist wing. Like anyone who says what we're saying here is some sort of isolationist. That is not just an insult. I don't care about insults, especially coming from somebody like Ben Shapiro. I don't even think about it. I don't even consider it. But what I do pay a lot of attention to is the damage that kind of mentality does. Because when you just plaster over anyone who says anything besides, yay, let's go attack somebody, then you are silencing somebody, and you may be silencing people who really know what they're talking about and are trying to warn you, don't do something stupid that can harm you. And based on the rest of the stuff he says, he is doubly dangerous because he himself has no bloody idea how freaking war works. And he exposed that by saying, well, I'm sure that they're just going to delay a little bit longer. That's why they haven't attacked yet, so that they make sure they get more air defense and the missiles to defend all of our bases, which he then specified in all the different areas. He seems to think that it's just a numbers game. As soon as you get enough missiles in place, then everything will be intercepted. It'll be the Golden Dome, as one other advocate of President Trump has recently said. I think it was Rebecca Grant, or I can't remember who it was actually right off the name, but one of them said, it'll be like a Golden Dome. No, this won't be a Golden Dome. There is no such, this is a hypothetical, theoretical thing. This Golden Dome is like a movie, man. That's how maybe it works in Star Wars or something, where you have your shields up, or Star Trek or something like that. Not in the real life. We've proven that already. To Israel's harm, we proved that. To our own harm. And missiles have gotten through. Every time that somebody in Iran has fired something at a U.S. base, some of the stuff gets through. A lot of it got through against Israel. And they have everything you can imagine. They had the Iron Dome. They had the THAAD system. They had Patriots. They had David Sling. They had the Arrow systems. I mean, they got it all, man. And they still can't stop everything from coming through. And I mean, it's not just one or two, but a healthy percentage has been able to get through. And when you have the numbers on the Iranian side, guess what that means? That means that you're going to suffer casualties. So whatever you think we have in this region, to just say, oh, we'll have it covered, meaning you think that however many get through, it's not going to be a big deal. Meaning you don't care how many Americans die. Doesn't matter if a few die. That's low cost. We can handle that. Or you're ignorant and you think that we're going to intercept everything and no one's going to die. Either way, you advocating for war based on that means you are a dangerous person to our country. This is not America first, my friend. This is not even pro-Trump, really. I mean, it's pro that I want Trump to do this. And so they're trying to use their platforms, whether it's a guy with millions of followers like Ben Shapiro, or somebody that the media loves, like Lindsey Graham, or Jack Keane at Fox News, who's on practically every day. They've got big platforms. Millions of people listen to them, and they are doing everything they can to push President Trump into taking this action. So much so that he's in a position where he almost can't win. But let me end where I began. This is a violation of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to war, if you want to be a war luster, then you follow the damn law. Follow the U.S. Constitution. If you can't get America to get behind you and say, yes, through their elected representatives, we think this is worth it to go to war, have a vote to declare war. Or at the very least have congressional authorization, which hasn't happened. And it won't happen because nobody is in the House of Representatives or the Senate is going to dare put their name onto something in an election year that may go south when they don't know for sure how it's going to work out. So they're not going to put their name on something. They won't vote for it. So these people say, don't worry about it. President Trump will. And you think that's going to work out? See, the military term, we talked about this a lot on our show earlier today with Doug McGregor. We've talked about it a lot and with other guests, myself. The chances of knocking Iran out with missiles alone is just next to impossible. You'll just have to get a 1 in a million shot. And why take the risk on that? Why take the gamble? It's not even a risk. This is like going for the first, you've never been to Vegas, never gambled. You're going to walk in there, mortgage your house, put all your life savings, and then go to the craps table with no idea how it even works and say, put it all on that black number right there, whatever it is, pick one. And then roll the dice and see if it happens to land on your take. It's theoretically possible you could win, but the chances of failure are so astronomically high that it's a virtual guarantee of failure. That's what this is. You can throw a lot of missiles in. You can bomb the stuff and blow all kinds of stuff up in Iran, kill hundreds, thousands of people possibly. But the likelihood is that you won't knock them out of the war. And in that process, you will get Americans killed when they start firing back. You will get Israelis killed when they start firing back. Now imagine, Mr. Shapiro, General Keane, Senator Graham, if all of your advocacy results in a lot of Israelis dying and a lot of Americans dying, and at the end of the day, the regime still doesn't fall and it's still in place. And imagine further if, because you are showing them that you want regime destruction, that they now race to the bomb, and all of a sudden one day out of nowhere, we get a seismic trigger that says they've tested an underground nuclear weapon. And now then all of a sudden they're a nuclear weapon state. All because going back to 2018, we got out of the JCPOA, and then all the things we've done since. And then culminating in this moment here where they are advocating blowing off the U.S. Constitution, blowing off the law, and blowing off common sense and just rolling the dice and betting it all. We could lose everything. President Trump, if this goes south, I mean, he's already in danger of a blue wave if the midterms long. This could just seal it. How's that good for President Trump? All these people who are advocating for this, go Trump, go Trump. What are you going to say to him afterwards if it doesn't go well and it turns into a morass and it ends up just guaranteeing failure in 2026? Who's going to benefit from that? See, nobody wants to think about anything because they don't want to. I don't want it to have a bad impact militarily. I don't want it to have a bad impact electorally. I don't care about the law. I don't care about the Constitution. I want it. So I'm going to get it. And I'm going to do everything I can, all my war lusting, to try and get the president of the United States to do something that's antithetical to our country, that's not needed for our country, and it is against the laws of our country. And that's what they're trying to get done. And then they want to put on the cloak of patriotism. How dare you? How dare you? At least be honest and say, no, I have a war lust. I want to kill the Iranians. I don't care if we need it. I don't care if it's not for us. It's for the other country here. It's for Israel. And that's all I care about. And if this goes bad, and it goes bad for President Trump, if it goes bad for American service members, F you all. I don't care. All I care about is satisfying my war lust. Now, that's pretty strong language, but it's pretty close to an accurate description of what we're facing. And I pray that no one has to pull this video up later. I pray that in this 11th hour that President Trump will find any way at all to use diplomacy to prevent going down this path here, so no Americans have to die. And he still has this chance to live another day politically. So for his own interest, I hope that's the way it works out. Thank you very much, folks. I really appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.